This is Susie Bear Learns to Cook. It's a book about Susie Bear and her friend Addie. Addie is my granddaughter, and I included her in my book. Now, Addie really did this. She made pudding for a special dinner that they had at their home, and so she had great fun with the pudding. Addie loves to learn. She is not afraid to learn new things. That makes Addie a perfect friend for Susie Bear. Susie Bear loves to try new things too. One Sunday, Addie's grandma and her Aunt Shelby were coming for dinner. Aunt Shelby was visiting from Arizona. This would be a perfect opportunity for Addie to try out her own special recipes. Addie asked Shelly, her mom, if she could make dessert for dinner. Addie and Susie Bear had been watching a kids' cooking show on television, and Addie was sure she could make an extraordinary dessert. Addie thought that making pudding would be a good way to start, and who doesn't like pudding? She and Susie Bear got out all the ingredients. They got out flour, sugar, and milk. Then, because they really wanted to impress Grandma and Aunt Shelby with their creativity, they got out all kinds of flavorings, food coloring, and toppings. Shelly, Addie's mom, bought a kit with lots of flavorings and colorings, but had not used it. Addie and Susie Bear got out 2 stools to stand on so they could easily reach the kitchen counter and the stove. They got out a saucepan, measuring cups, a stirring spoon, and lots of smaller bowls. They were planning to put their all into it, as of course they always did. Addie told Susie Bear that Susie would measure the ingredients and put it in the pan, and Addie would stir it. She didn't want Susie Bear to get burned on the stove. Shelly had shown Addie how to safely use the stove, so she was sure she would not get burned. Susie Bear didn't know how to measure, and Addie was about to show her when she stopped and said, "Oops, we didn't wash our hands. Cooks never touch food without washing their hands first." Addie had shown Susie Bear the proper way to wash hands, so they went to the sink. They took the soap and lathered their hands and sang "Happy Birthday" to get the right amount of scrubbing in. Then they wiped their hands on a clean towel. They climbed on their stools, and Addie told Susie Bear how to measure. Addie handed Susie Bear a half measuring cup and pushed the sugar container to her. Susie Bear dipped the cup into the sugar and made it full, then scraped off the top to make it even on the top. Susie did this perfectly and only spilled a little. Then they did the same with the flour, but used a full cup. The flour was a little more difficult, and it got all over the counter, and some got on Susie Bear's nose. Both the flour and sugar were put into the saucepan, and Addie mixed it together. Next, they took a liquid measuring cup and added 3 cups of milk to the flour and sugar mixture. Addie had the stove turned on medium heat and began to stir. It was important to stir it a lot so that there would not be any lumps. Addie stirred and stirred with Susie Bear watching her. Finally, the pudding began to thicken. All the lumps were not out yet, so they decided to cook it a little longer. By the time most of the lumps were out, the pudding was very thick. Addie said, "The most important part is how it tastes. We will add the most amazing things to make the best pudding in the world, and when we put our flavorings in, it won't be as thick." The first flavoring they tried was birthday cake flavoring. They weren't sure how much to put in, but 4 or 5 drops should be good. Then they decided on the color. Susie Bear said, "How about orange?" "Okay," and she put orange in and stirred it. "Let's put a purple swirl in it." They both agreed that it was beautiful. "It's really pretty thick," said Addie, "but it is really pretty. What should we top it with?" "How about some confetti sprinkles?" "Yes, that is perfect for birthday cake pudding," exclaimed Addie, clapping her hands. The third bowl was to be chocolate, shouted Addie excitedly. Everybody likes chocolate, so they put in the chocolate flavoring. Chocolate flavoring isn't sweet, but they thought it would be. Susie Bear decided to put gummy worms on it and pushed a few down in the pudding to make it look wormy. Peanut butter was put in the fourth bowl, which made it a little smoother than the other bowls. They decided to put freshly ground pepper on it and strawberries. They offered Colby, Addie's dog, a spoonful, but he sniffed the spoon and walked away. Susie Bear said, "I guess Colby isn't hungry. I thought he would eat anything." "Yes, he does. He eats everything, even Dad's chili," Addie replied, looking a little worried. The last bowl was going to be the best of all. They put a drop of flavoring from each bottle: orange, lime, chocolate, peppermint, rose, almond, and did the same with the food coloring. Susie Bear said, "That should be delicious. Let's pour some honey on it too." "Okay," said Addie as she sprinkled cracker crumbs on it. To complete their dessert, they took a can of whipped cream and topped each one off and put a cherry on top. They looked wonderful. Addie said, "After cooking, we have to clean our mess." They cleaned up their bowls and pan and wiped the flour off the counter. You would never have known they had been cooking. When Addie's mom saw the kitchen, she was impressed and said, "You did such a good job cleaning up. I will let you two cook again, and your puddings look so yummy I could eat them all by myself." Susie Bear and Addie were very pleased with themselves and couldn't wait for dessert time. Addie said, "If you want to make Mom happy, always clean up." Susie Bear nodded in agreement and gave a thumbs up. Addie's dad, Heath, grilled the steaks. Shelley fixed a nice lettuce salad and some mashed potatoes. When they were finished, Shelley said, "Addie and Susie Bear have a special surprise for you. They made dessert." Everyone took a little of each pudding. It was a little hard to spoon out because by now it was very thick, but it looked so good. A grandma is always good for being proud of you. She was the first one to try the pudding. Her sister Shelby tried it next. Grandma's favorite is chocolate, so that is the one she tried first. She was surprised when she found a gummy worm in her mouth, but the chocolate wasn't very sweet and the texture was like paste. She said, "That is really interesting." And Shelby tried the orange with peanut butter chips. "Oh, wow," said Shelby. "I thought I was getting orange, but it tastes like lime. I never would have thought of lime and peanut butter." Shelby and Grandma looked at each other with wide eyes. They didn't want to hurt Addie's and Susie Bear's feelings. Addie's dad took a spoonful of pudding with honey on it. It made his eyes water and stained his mouth. "Oh my, I've never tasted anything like that. Good job, girls," he said, and took a quick drink of water. Addie's mom was on a special diet, so she couldn't eat any of it, but tried a little nibble. "Sorry, Addie, I can't mess up my diet." After a little bit, Aunt Shelby got up from the table, and after trying a few, she took it to the kitchen and, without anyone seeing her, ditched hers in the trash. Heath got a phone call and excused himself. Colby the dog licked Heath's plate and walked away and lay down. Everyone knows that Grandma never lets her granddaughter and her granddaughter's friend down, and she ate the whole thing and said, "The birthday cake one is my favorite. Can I have a little more?" Then she said, "Addie and Susie Bear, I can see you really like to cook and like to be creative. Maybe I could teach you some recipes from my grandma taught me. Would you like to do that?" Addie and Susie Bear were so happy and couldn't wait to start cooking with Grandma. The end. Thank you for listening.